Welcome everyone to, I guess we'll have to start calling this Literature Lovers Afternoon In, since you're watching it from the comfort of your own homes. Today we are thrilled to have author Lesley Kagen from Wisconsin with us to present her new novel, Every Now and Then. And Lesley is a #1 New York Times bestselling author with her book, Whistling in the Dark. Do I have that correct?
No.
Oh, sorry. You're a best-selling author with Whistling in the Dark.
I'm a New York Times best-selling author,
Okay.
but not #1.
Okay. Well, it should have been #1.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love Whistling in the Dark. That's such a charming book.
Thank you.
As is this one.
Thank you. I think with whistling, there's such a great backstory to the whole whistling thing because and I really love to tell this story, especially to other writers, because rejection, is really hard. And when I wrote, I was really proud of it. I'd never written a novel before. I'd written my entire life, but had not written a novel. Essays and plays and comedy bits and commercials and just everything, but not a novel. And for some insane reason, when I was 56 years old, I decided, I think I'm going to try that. So I sat down, I wrote Whistling in the Dark. When I got finished with it, and I really like this. Okay, now what should I do? Oh, maybe I'll get it published. So I thought, well, because I'm an actress, I've had agents up the kazoo. This is going to be super easy. I went, this book's going to get published. So I thought, well, then what do you have to do? What do you have to do to get a literary agent? Well, you have to write this thing called a query letter. Oh, what's that? Oh, okay. So there's like 100 books written about how to write query letters. So I read a couple of them. I go, so it's essentially a pitch letter. I can do this, no problem. So I write a query letter, which, I think it's an okay query letter. They're really hard to write. And
they are. They have entire classes devoted just
to
writing query letters.
Yeah, but this, I think, was sort of one of those ignorance is bliss situations. Then I thought mine was pretty good, and I thought, well, by tomorrow, I'm going to have an agent. Okay, well, the fastest rejection I got was 14 seconds. Now, we were still doing snail mail back then, so some of the rejections, that was one of my very fastest rejections. So, okay, well, after 20 rejections, I thought, well, this isn't going now. I was shocked, really. It's not going. Well, okay. I tuned up the query letter. Then I said, okay, well, I'll just send out to a couple more. Okay, 156. No lie, rejections from literary agents later, I finally got an agent. So, that whole thing about, not giving up and sticking to it if it's something that you really and truly believe in. And I really believe in my writing. I believe in my storytelling ability. I believed in whistling. I believe in all of my books.
And how many books do you have now?
This is my 9th.
Wow. And are they all with Alcove Press?
No. I'm also right now currently with Penguin. Okay. So I'm also with Penguin.
Well, Alcove is part of the Penguin Random House.
Well, yeah, now Alcove is part of Random House. So right. Yeah, so they're, yeah. Okay. So most of them are. And yeah, I think 4 of them are still with Penguin. So yeah. Great.
Well, do you want to give a little overview of Every Now and Then? And we also have a great book trailer we can play after you give them a little teaser here.
Okay, well, when I started to write this book, and it took me a long time to write Every Now and Then. It's almost 3 years since I've started to write the novel. I wanted to write about life in a small town because I'm from a small town. And I wanted to write about friendship. It's always been really hard. I think when writers sit down to write, they tend to write about things they either really know well or things that they yearn for. I've never had, I have some really old friends, but not the kind of friendship that the three young girls in Every Now and Then have. Three 11-year-olds, Elizabeth Biz Buchanan, Frances Frankie Maniaci, and Viv Cleary. And these girls have literally been friends practically since they were born. And the book opens up during the summer of 1960. Every summer, these girls spend in their treehouse, and it is an amazing treehouse. It's, as the narrator says in the story, and the book is narrated by a 70-year-old Biz, not, as kids, although their kids story, it's a looking back situation. So she said it's the Taj Mahal of hideouts, and it truly is. They have everything they need there, and these were really different days. 1960, kids ran wild. I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood. I mean, this is I'm just turned 71, so this is my life. This is and when I was 10 in 1960, so it was, you ran free.
I know, I was a free range child too. We all
Yes,
did.
and
Came home for lunch and dinner.
yeah, right. It's like, if you're lucky, my mom usually threw us out of the house and said, if you have to come back for lunch, okay, fine. I'll put something on the front porch. Okay, dinner will do, but then out right away, back out, and don't come home until the streetlights come on. And she's a great mom. So I grew up in the city, but these little girls, they're in a safe, even safer environment than I grew up in, and they run wild and they do what they want and they have adventures. And this adventure this summer is something that they did not bargain for. There's a lot of romance in the story, which I found so interesting because I'm not at all a romantic person. But there's a lot of romance going on, and the girls don't really understand what's happening. But the biggest part of the book, I think, is when they decide that they're going to start spying on the patients at the Broadhurst Mental Institution. And through that, the friendships that they've developed with some of the patients, stuff starts happening, scary stuff. And in the book, I think the story, I mean, it's both coming of age and it's a mystery, but it's also about some really deep themes that are really important to me. It's about, it was interesting. A writer friend of mine said, what this book is about? It's about being the other. And it really is. There's so many others in this book, people who don't really fit in. It's also a book, it's about racism. It's about mental illness. It's a story about gay love. I mean, there's stuff that the girls don't always 100% understand, but they do know their minds. And they know what they believe in and what's important to them.
Yeah, so even though you said it in the 60s, it's got a lot of timeless issues.
Well, yeah, I mean, really, Pamela, when you think about it, we should be farther along than we are. So many of these exact same issues that I'm writing about in 1960 are the exact same things that are happening right now. I mean, yes, there's been some progress. But I mean, I really think we should be further along. And
be nice.
yeah, and all these issues are really vitally important to me. And it's also a novel about time, and hence the title, Every Now and Then. It's the illusion. It's the illusion of time. I mean, I think a lot of us think about time as starting here. Oh gosh, that was so long ago. And I have found the older that I've gotten, that just is not holding true for me. Time seems to run almost side by side. So it's not so far away. It's everything just seems to almost be happening at the same time in some funny kind of way.
Mhm.
And the story, since it's told from Biz's grown-up view, um, has just there's a sort of sweetness to it. I mean, I love this book. So,
Yeah, your narrative voice from the young characters reminds me of Scout's voice
oh,
in To Kill a
ah,
Mockingbird,
ah,
with
I mean it.
the wisdom of youth and innocence, telling the adults who should know better what the truth is.
Well, I think oftentimes, I mean, I am a serious grandmother. I mean, a serious grandmother.
I
As
know you're doing the homeschool. That's intense.
I am. I'm tutoring tutoring my grandchildren, my G kids,
Mhm.
as I call them, because I'm the Gigi with the in it, the Gigi. And I spend an enormous amount of time with children. I also, before all of this happened, I spent a lot of time at their school and helping kids learn how to read and to tell stories and to write. And we had a comedy club, which was the all-time maybe funnest thing I've ever done in my life. The fourth grade comedy club. So
That sounds wonderful.
it I can't even tell you how hilarious children. The reason I think I love to write, not all my, I think every book that I've ever had, almost one or two, maybe one, Land of 100 Wonders, doesn't have any kids in it. But the reason that I love to, even though this one, this book has kids in it, it's not, it's told by an adult narrator,
Mhm.
but those kids, their viewpoint and their honesty and their realness, kids are, and on top of their natural comedic abilities, and their willingness to bare their souls, that, deep inside of all of us, we're still those kids we always were.
Right. And I can tell you spend a lot of time with children as I'm reading. That's one of the themes that runs through your work, is these wonderful relationships that develop between your young characters and non-parental adults.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I think that so much of that just comes from the way I was raised. My parents were not, did not loom, were not there. They were doing parent things. I mean, truly, I grew up on a block in Milwaukee, Catholic, Irish, German, Polish area of Milwaukee, where it was not unusual for kids, for families to have 10 or more children. On our block alone, and I swear this is not a lie, I think we had something like around 125 kids.
Oh, never short of playmates.
Yeah, you walk out that door and somebody's going to yell at you, come on, let's go do this.
Uh-huh.
And no one was watching us. So, I mean, you can't possibly parent 15 children. So what had ended up happening is that a lot of families had to leave that sort of parenting, to go down the line.
Mhm.
Like you, Bobby, who is, 15, you're supposed to watch Jimmy, who is 5. And of course, Bobby had other stuff to do. So,
Right.
we pretty much, I mean, we did stuff that when I look back now, I I mean, I'm horrified. I'm just surprised I'm alive.
I think all of us look back and think that, no bike helmets, no seatbelts, this kind
Nothing,
of thing.
and
Uh-huh.
just, I mean, we used to do just these things that were just outrageous, and nobody stopped us. Nobody really questioned us. There's a huge, a much bigger divide between grown-ups and children back then than there is now. I mean,
Right.
parenting has changed so much. So,
That was one of the things that I thought was wonderful about this novel. As I was reading it, I could think of teen readers that I would like to give it to. I could think of adults I would like to give it to. And if my grandmother were still with us, I would have loved to have shared it with her. And since so many families are together again, I think this would make a great family read, and actually have something interesting to talk about at the dinner table.
oh, that's such a kind thing to say. Um, that because that's something that'd be really important to me. I've
Mhm.
had experiences, especially with whistling. A huge number of teenagers have read that book, which I
Okay.
had no idea was happening.
I
Until
could see with the young character how that would appeal to especially high school age students. Mhm.
that's what it was. I thought, well, how odd. That hadn't crossed my mind. And this wonderful teacher in the Midwest, Gary Baltzman, decided, I wonder if we ask Lesley if she'll come visit the class. And I want to say Gary was in Ohio. And of course, I couldn't drive to Ohio, but I said, yeah. So he did this amazing thing. I mean, teachers, they blow my mind. All of them should be getting paid $1 million a
Certainly
year.
right now they deserve it.
Always. The amount of energy and effort and care and love just is astounding to me. But he organized this entire event in the school gymnasium themed around this time period and whistling in the dark. And he carried me around like a laptop. And I go, hi. So it was amazing. But I was surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, it's magical to see that connection, especially with young people meeting their first author, and what a difference that makes.
It really does, Pamela. It was interesting because Gary, after the event, he got in touch with me and he said, Lesley, I just want to let you know that there were all the kids loved the book, but there were a couple young girls who were deeply affected. And I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. He said, would you mind if they, wrote to you? I said, absolutely not. I'd love that. And I asked one of the little, the teenagers, I said, so could you explain to me why you like this story so much? And she said, because those little girls, they were in a lot of trouble. And I feel that way.
Oh.
And, the poignancy, I mean, they're so revelatory. That's the thing with kids. They don't hold back. It's so much harder for me oftentimes to communicate with a grown-up than it is with kids because they're not hiding anything. They don't have any other ulterior motives or a reason, they're just so real,
And one of the other books that we sell a lot of to all ages is Kate DiCamillo's book, Amy Nightingale, which has the three young girls in it. They call themselves the three rancheros. And your trio reminded me so much of that. The insights, the things they say, the innocence, yet the wisdom. And we sell that to adult book clubs and highly recommend that they read it. And so I can completely see your novel being something like that we can give to teen book club groups and adults as well, or intergenerational ones.
Yeah, I think in a way, now once that happened with whistling, I thought, well, I think that's kind of true that a lot of my books are, a lot of people consider them crossover books, adult to YA. Just because, they've got a lot of mostly kids in them. I love that whole concept of being able to sit around and for an entire family to talk about a novel. That for a grandmother to say, kids to say, you just did that? You just ran, like I'll tell my grandkids stuff that I did. And they're literally, it's a little Home Alone look like,
yeah. I know it would be a wonderful catalyst for insight into parent and adult years as when they were children.
Yes, exactly correct. Exactly.
Should we take a quick break and show your book trailer?
Sure, that'd be great.
Just to last about a minute or two, and I will share the screen here and turn this on so everyone can watch. And, whoops, what happened, Richard?
Click the tab.
Click the tab where?
Click the YouTube video. It's for sharing.
There. Can you all see that?
I can.
You can. Okay. All right.
Turn the sound up there to the right 2 buttons. Go over to something. No.
The girls didn't blame me at the time, and all these.
Whoops.
But I've never quite forgiven myself for instigating what happened during the summer the three of us were 11, and I never forget. Of course, not everyone in town has as many years under their belts as I do. Whenever the summer of 60 comes up in conversation, someone not old enough to know better is bound to pipe in. Time to let bygones be bygones. Water under the bridge. What's done is done. But there's going to come a time when they too will understand that the border between now and then is much more like a cobweb than a brick wall. And when the past comes to haunt, it doesn't ask our permission to do so. Memory is a shallow grave, and it doesn't take much to resurrect the feel of his hand squeezing the life out of me, the sound of Frankie's legs snapping in two, and Viv's scream. A warm breeze ruffling oak boughs on a moonless night, or the late train rumbling down the tracks, or even a dog barking 2 streets over, can be all it takes to bring back the long ago summer evil paid a visit to our small town and took our young lives as we knew them as a souvenir.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you. A friend of mine, a librarian, Jeff Mercerman, I had this idea that I wanted to do a book trailer, and I'd never done one before. So we put our heads together, and I did the voiceover, and he went out and shot some footage, and he brought it back to me. I said, I love this. And his daughter, his young daughter composed and plays the music.
Nice.
So I thought
Now, whose little bare feet were those? Do they belong to one of your grandchildren?
no, those were his daughters.
Oh, his daughters.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's so paranoid. We were going to do a much bigger scale thing, but I started to think about it, and I thought, we have to be really careful about exposing kids to anything or ourselves. So he just sort of culled everything within his family and, resourced it in instead of resourced it out. So I said, I think it's lovely. And we went with it. So.
Well, it really worked. It was beautiful. Very nostalgic feeling. So
thank you. I think he did a great job. Yeah.
He did. Well, I know we've got some people who probably have some questions. If people would like to type their question into the chat box, then we can call on you and you can turn on your camera and actually ask your question in person. In the meantime, I have put the pre-order links for Every Now and Then into the chat box. You can get them either online or by calling Valley Bookseller, or online or by calling Excelsior Bay Books. We had to do this virtually today, but at some point we are going to get Lesley to both Excelsior and Stillwater for a live event.
I would so love
to normal.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And also too, we've got those great, beautiful little book plates. So
yes, those are waiting for people at the stores, and anyone who orders will get one of those with their book. The release date is October 6th. So you have plenty of time to call today, tomorrow, or order it online, and it'll be waiting for you to either pick up on October 6th, or you can have it shipped right to your house. But they're beautiful. They're paperback originals, which makes it wonderful for book clubs. Very affordable. I love that. Now, on your website, will you have coming any companion things to go with it, like questions or?
There is a whole question and answer, and I'm not sure. I think it's going to be included. I haven't gotten my finished copies yet.
Oh, okay.
So, but I think it may be actually in the book.
Oh, okay. That's always nice for book clubs to have that.
Yeah, yeah, the discussion questions.
Right,
and,
right.
If they're not in the book, they will definitely post. I always do discussion questions for book clubs.
Oh, good.
Because I love a book club. I love book clubs. I didn't even know that this was a thing when it first all started up in the way back days. And somebody said, well, we have a book club. Do you want to come? I went, well, yeah, okay, sure. And I literally have done I've done way over 100 book clubs.
That's wonderful. Now, is there a link on your website if anyone listening today would like to invite you to their club?
There absolutely is.
Wonderful.
And it's so cool now. I mean, in this sense, it's easy for me to hook up, with book clubs and do all sorts of different kinds of things. But they're so fun. I mean, half the time, nobody ever talks about the book. I mean, I have gotten the best food at book clubs. I don't eat all day when I know I'm going to.
For the feast. Do you have any particularly wonderful or interesting experiences with book clubs that stand out that you'd like to share?
Well, they just are all, they're always so enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
And they always give me the coolest chair. And I think I love the ones where there's been one member of a group who hasn't told the other people in the group that I'm coming. So, she and I plan this on the sly, and then I show up and everyone freaks out.
A
And
real live author in the house.
Yeah, it's like surprise author visit time.
Yes,
So,
that's exciting.
that's always fun. But I've gone to, I really, almost every experience I've ever had with a book club has just been so positive. Before they start drinking too much wine. And then it can be like, whoa, okay, ladies, let's
No
bring
holds barred.
yeah, but just so fun,
Uh-huh.
it's fun. It's women,
Yes.
I've had a couple book clubs, like really big ones, where a couple guys have shown up too. And I like that too. I wish more men would do book club.
I know. You need to encourage them. I know a lot of couples are in book clubs, but there's not anywhere near as many all male book clubs as there are women. And especially here in the Midwest, this is what gets us through winter.
Yes, it is. And book clubs, I don't know. I mean, one of the funniest things that you not funny, but interesting things that happened. I mean, I've been doing this now for a really long time, but I never counted on all these amazing experiences. I thought I would just write a book,
Yes.
and then that would be it. I didn't know that all of these other things would start happening. Like, probably the one with the kids that touched me deeply. But there was one, when you write novels set in the 50s and 60s, which I just love to do. I was reading, I think out loud, I was reading at a bookstore event. And I noticed that there was this woman in the front row and she was recording what I was saying. This wells me up just thinking about it. And I stopped. I said, "What are you doing?" I couldn't imagine why she would possibly be recording this. And she said, "Well," I better not start crying. I swear to God. Oh my God. She said, "My best friend is dying. And she wanted to come tonight, but she couldn't because she's in hospice. And I've been reading the book out loud to her. And we've been sharing our lifelong friendship memories with one another. And she so wanted to come tonight. So I came to record your talk." I mean,
That's so moving.
it just, I can't really express
Mm-hmm.
how that touches me. I can't. And then about a week ago, same thing happened with Every Now and Then. I guess they might have gotten a copy, an advanced reader's copy.
Right.
And
There's contests and things.
yeah, contests and things. And a woman said, I'm a hospice worker, and I just wanted to let you know that I've been reading the book aloud to one of my patients. And that stuff, I mean, it's so far and beyond anything that I could ever hope to reach people with.
That's wonderful. Well, today's conversation will be recorded, and both Excelsior Bay Books and Valley Bookseller will have links up on their Facebook page. The Literature Lovers Facebook page will have links up so people can share it with their friends, share it with their book clubs, or just enjoy it again. So yeah.
Great.
That's the one joy of these virtual events, is you can get to a lot more people.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, so many times people, when I have a book come out, because it is something that a lot of authors tend to be pretty internalized people, because we spend all of our days in our heads. So, I think that oftentimes events are not all that much fun for a lot of writers and authors. They do them, but it's not with, like, yeah, it's just hard for them because they're
Well,
introverted
you
more
need
than
to come to
extroverted.
Literature Lovers Night Out because we have a really good time.
Oh, I'm sure that you do. I just mean
Yeah, I
like
know.
a lot of, like I've been to so many book events. I love to go to book events and support other authors. And some of them have just been fantastic, but honestly, some of them have not.
Right.
I mean, some of
Well,
them
writing a book and being great on stage are two entirely different skill sets.
completely different. So you can see, authors get up there and my heart, oh my God, I think my heart goes out to them because this can be very, very difficult if you're a very introverted person and not used to speaking. I got really lucky because I'm also an actress. So
Right.
it's just, it's such a huge part for me to go out to bookstores and meet people. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, well, the hardest thing about, right now publishing a book, one of them is that I don't get to go to my indie bookstore in town and hug people who have literally been coming to my events in Milwaukee since my very first book.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss that. I miss seeing people. I miss them telling me their thoughts, how do they, what do they think about this character or that character, or how the book make them feel. That's just a really, really hard part right now.
It
For
is.
me.
Even as booksellers, we miss that personal connection as well. So now if anybody in the audience has a question, feel free to turn on your camera and microphone and pop in here and join us. I'm sure Lesley would be happy to answer. I know one question that always comes up is people, of course, even though this one does not come out until October 6th, they want to know if you are already writing the next book.
Well, it's kind of interesting what I'm doing right now. Because everything has been so strange in the publication process leading up. I mean, every now and then was supposed to come out originally in July, but everything has gotten so messed up. Books being warehoused, doing their own social distancing. So they couldn't get out to the stores, etc. And I wasn't sure exactly. It's hard for me to I guess when it comes to stories, I need to stay in a very specific story until that story is born.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very kind of a weird thing for me, but I put out a book a couple years ago called The Undertaking of Tests. And it's so interesting we're talking about this today. And it was just this little novella. And it deals with some really serious kinds of things that kids throughout our country right now will be going through in terms of grief and family. And I thought to myself, you know what I'd like to do? Not a lot of people read that book. So I thought, I'm going to take this book and I'm going to rename it and I'm going to work on it and try to turn it into a YA novel, because it's I don't think like a lot of the stories that are out there today. I mean, there's some, it's sort of like really, I think, written for 13, 14-year-olds, sort of a tween thing, but it's called The Further Adventures of Those Who Cease to Exist.
Good title.
Thank you. And I mean, there's some Black humor in there, the kind of Black humor that kids, love, but it's also about some serious stuff about what it means to lose people. People are not remembering all the time that because of the coronavirus, we're all experiencing a lot of loss of friends and family members, and it's a big grief that we're in. And I wanted to write a book that in some way, sometimes kids experiences of death can be very difficult. for them to express. My father died when I was a kid.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry.
thank you. And it was a sudden death. He was killed in a car accident. And kids, how they relate to death, it's very difficult for them to put into words or how to express how they're feeling. And sometimes it doesn't hit them until a later date. So I thought this would be really interesting to be able to talk about some of the actual stuff that happens when people die. And um, I'm kind of falling in love with it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if, any publishers are interested in it. I'll hand it into my agent.
Yeah, the New York Times just had a big article last week about children and grief during this COVID time. And so I think it's probably very timely. You'll have to Google it and take a look. So.
Oh, yes, I would love that. Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Really interesting. Yes, yep. So one other question for you. What are you reading right now?
Right now I'm reading the Frederick Backman book.
Oh, Anxious People. Isn't that fantastic?
I'm a huge fan of his.
I am too.
I think he's fantastic. I tend to read writers. It's interesting to me because someone once said to me, if you had to pick a writer who you think you write like the most, or who you have very, similar styles to, who would you pick? And I said, well, I know this sounds weird, but I think Frederick Backman and I kind of write alike. I also think Louise Penny and I kind of, there's certain people who when writers put words down on pages that I think, yeah, that's sounds sort of like something I would write. I love books like this one. It's so fresh. I love the idea that he brings something completely fresh to this novel. I love the pacing of it. I love the way he structured it. I love, of course, the humor. I'm not that far into it yet.
Well, you have a lot of happiness coming your way then. So.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I picked it up and then I've sort of been watching it. I sort of go, I'm coming for you. I want to sort of parse it out because he hasn't written a new book in a pretty long time. So
yeah, and I honestly, after A Man Called Uva, this is my favorite one. So he really does an amazing job. We had the pleasure of hosting him a few years ago, and he was just a wonderful guest. And of course, had a sold out event because he's so popular here in the Twin Cities with all the Scandinavians.
With the right. Was he pretty nice?
He's a very nice man. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. He was very generous with his fans. He's been back a couple of times, and just a really wonderful person, as interesting in real life as his books are.
Yeah, he's anxious, and he and I have that in common. So there are
everybody has that in common these days.
Yes. This has sort of been a long thing for me, dealing with anxiety and stuff, and that's just the stuff he writes about. Just the way he lays it down on the pages. I admire the boom, ooh, right in there. I admire that very, very much. And I just finished right before this one, the new Louise Penny Inspector Gamache book.
Oh, I know. She has a huge fan following, that's for sure.
Oh, she does. And I admire her in this case because she took the series away from Three Pines and put it in Paris. And that takes a lot of guts for an author.
It does. Big change like that.
Yeah, because lots of times publishers say no, we're not. That's
a good thing. Yeah.
We have all of these millions of people who love your books set in Three Pines, so let's not be going to Paris. Although, if you're going to set a book, Paris, right? I mean, everybody loves books of Paris.
Well, I'm going to give the audience one more opportunity to show themselves and ask a question. Otherwise, I want to remind people, I put the 2 pre-order links back in the chat, and you can either call or order online at Valley Bookseller and Excelsior Bay Books and get one of Leslie's signed book plates. Yes. So thank you to anyone who pre-orders. and they will be either waiting for you or sent to your home on October 6th. Any parting words from you, Lesley?
Wear your masks.
Yes, good advice. And I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your school day with your grandchildren to come and talk to all of us.
Thank
and
you.
congratulations on this wonderful new novel. I think that fans of Kent Kruger's This Tender Land, and as I said, the Raimi Nightingale series From Kate to Camillo and To Kill a Mockingbird are all going to find a lot to enjoy and admire in this novel.
And you know what, Pamela, I just want to thank you and Excelsior Bay and Valley. You guys just do such an amazing job. And I just want, once again, I'm such a huge indie bookstore lover. And I just hope that everybody, you know, it takes that little tiny extra effort. It's so important to me that bookstores remain part of our culture. And I just really, you do such an amazing job. You're like the godmother of novels. So I thought it's so exciting for me to be able to stay, you know, to sit and talk to you. So I just hope everybody would just think to themselves all the wonderful experiences they've ever had in a bookstore, and to think about how important it is to keep our culture within bookstores going, to keep that sense of a book, of opening a book, of speaking to booksellers, of trading ideas with other customers within the store. I mean, it's such an amazing experience to go into a bookstore. And I know it can be difficult right now, but you know, we can keep the stores going. It's not a big deal. I've ordered books from Excelsior Bay, and we just, yeah, boom, they show up.
Right.
And it just makes me, number one, feel incredibly happy that I can make sure that one store that I care about is going, and will hopefully, in some small way, if we could all do that, it just really, really helps. So first of all, just thank you to you guys for hanging in and for doing such an amazing job with all the author interviews you do, and just the kindest people. I've spoken, oh God, what's her name? Who owns Excelsior Bay?
Ann Woodbeck.
Yes, Ann. What an amazing person. Just so kind and sweet. And so, yeah, just please thank her for me too. And really thank
Well,
you.
I know I speak for everyone at Excelsior Bay and Valley Bookseller when I say that what we do is a labor of love, because we love books, we love sharing books and book information, and Gretchen West and her team out of Valley Booksellers are just such incredible women, as are the team at Excelsior Bay, and so we're lucky to have these stores in our community.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. And thank you for everybody who showed up today.
Yes, thank you. Like I said, we will have this posted to social media. Lesley, you'll probably have it on your website, but there will be lots of opportunities to watch this again or share it with your friends. So Lesley, thank you. I cannot say how appreciative I am of your time today and giving us the opportunity to talk about Every Now and Then before it comes out on October 6th.
Thank you. Say hi to everyone at the stores.
I will, and you have a wonderful rest of the school day with your grandchildren.
Thank you. Thank you. We have math.
Ooh, lucky you. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. We enjoy having you virtually until we can once again meet in person. Have a great day, everybody, and happy reading. Thank you.